Good evening, and welcome to the July 3rd meeting of the City of Brookhaven Planning Commission. I'm Stan Siegel, and I'll be presiding this evening at the meeting. This meeting has been called pursuant to the Brookhaven zoning ordinances and specified on tonight's agenda. You can get copies of the agenda and related documents should be at the back of the room. Also, if you plan on speaking this evening, we'd ask that you'll need to fill out a comment card with your name, address, and comments. If you get that in the back of the room, and that'll just kind of move the process along for us. So this July 3rd meeting is called to order. I'm going to call the roll and see who we've got here. Commissioner Shannon Cameron is not in attendance this evening. And as a way of introduction, just raise your hand so people know who you are. Commissioner Rob Francoeur. Commissioner Jack Hundred, Stan Siegel, Commissioner John Funny,
Present.
Commissioner Adrian Schmidt,
Present.
and Commissioner John Hess.
Present.
All right, so let the records show that 6 of the members are present, and we have a quorum, and we'll proceed. This time, I'm going to ask everyone, including myself, turn off your cell phones or silence them. And let me recognize if there's anybody here. We need to recognize the elected officials. No. And let me introduce our Director of Community Development for the City of Brookhaven, Ms. Susan Cannon, and our City Planner for the City of Brookhaven, Mr. Howard Kuntz. They're busy taking notes. This Planning Commission has been established by the Code of Ordinances of the City of Brookhaven. We conduct public hearings on land use, zoning changes, code text amendments, and other related matters. This commission does not rezone property, but rather we're an advisory board which reports its findings and recommendations for consideration for action by the mayor and the city council of Brookhaven. So it's our job to listen and draw the best conclusion we can and make a recommendation based on what we're hearing and what the ordinances say and what we believe the future of the city of Brookhaven is being. So with that, I think I've got everything. All right. So we've called to order. The first item of business will be approval of the minutes, approval of the June 5th Planning Commission work session minutes that everybody had a copy of. Did everybody get a copy of that earlier? Do I have a motion to approve those June 5th Planning Commission work session minutes?
A motion to approve the work session. That's
Okay, Commissioner, so do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor of approval of the June 5th, 2013 Planning Commission work session meeting notes?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Second item is approval of the regular meeting, the approval of June 5th Planning Commission regular meeting minutes.
I move that the June 5th Planning Commission meeting, regular meeting minutes be approved.
Okay,
Accepted.
I have a motion. I have a second.
I will second that motion.
I have a second. All in favor of approve the June 5th Planning Committee regular meeting minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Well, we're moving through this thing quickly. And do we have any organizational and procedural items? Ms. Cannon, do we have?
No, sir.
No? So anybody? Do we have any unfinished business from our June 5th meeting? No? Okay. So we'll go on to the new business at hand. There'll be 3 items on the agenda this evening. There'll be a rezoning ordinance, ID number 1098 RZ 13-01. There'll be an ordinance text amendment, RZ 13-03, that's ID 1099, and another text amendment to the city sign ordinance will be ID 1100, that's RZ 13-04. So with that, Susan, would you want to read, or how are you?
I'll be happy to.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, actually, that's not our exhibit on the screen, but I think we'll use that. This is case RZ 1301. The property is located at 1475 N Druid Hills Rd. The request is for rezoning from R75 to RA8 on a 3.9 acre tract located, as previously stated, at 1475 North Druid Hills Road. The applicant is asking for a 31-unit townhome project. This application has been duly advertised, and the public hearing tonight will proceed. The staff stipulates to the staff report, which you do have in your package, we have recommended approval of this request for rezoning. The comprehensive plan, which we did adopt from DeKalb County, identifies the subject tract as suburban, which allows up to 8 units per acre. This proposal is for 8 units per acre. The surrounding property consists of R75 and RA8, R75 to the east, RA5 to the south, and RA8 to the west. And this particular RA8 proposal is in conformity with the land use plan. We have recommended approval with 15 conditions. It's our understanding that the applicant has agreed to those conditions. Late this afternoon on the way out the door, I did receive a request for an addition of 7 additional conditions, which Mr. Dillard will need to address on the podium, and we will need to react to those. But basically, this request for the 31-unit townhome project, staff has supported with 15 conditions. And if you have any questions, we'll be glad to try to answer them.
Okay.
Just for clarification, you said there were 7 additional conditions that was received by your office late this afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what he said, Mr. Dillard. All right, let me also say that I think we were told earlier that, and it's probably not in the packet, there were some residents who had submitted letters to us and emails, and there were 2 that were received this evening.
I did
Earlier,
receive one.
we did get a copy of them.
I did receive one en route on the way here, so I don't have any way to print it, but I do
Right.
see that that particular party has submitted a
Okay.
statement card.
I want to make sure that we did
Right.
get that. We did get that electronically,
And
I
I
believe
did,
all of us
I
had.
did email it to you,
Right,
yes.
we all had a chance to read that as well, so even though we did get it elected, so the process we'll follow tonight is part of the procedures that we had adopted in our first meeting, and that is we'll have an opportunity, the applicant will have 10 minutes to present the application, and they can use the whole 10 minutes or reserve a portion of that for a rebuttal if there are anybody opposed to it. So the applicant will get 10 minutes, the applicant or their agent will get 10 minutes. We, as a commission, will have an opportunity to ask questions, and then we will, after that, open it up for anyone who is opposed to, if there is anyone opposed to the application, and we'll have up to 10 minutes for that as well. And again, the commission will have an opportunity to address and ask any questions and clarification of those who have spoken, and ask any questions or clarification from the staff. Our intent is to have everyone be heard. We would ask that when you're up, you be fairly succinct. Try not to repeat what everybody else has said. Give us new information. But we really want to hear what you all have to say. So with that, I guess we'll ask the applicant for the item RZ 13-01, 1475 North Druid Hills Road to present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Doug Dillard with Wiseman, Noack, Curry, and Wilco. We represent the applicant, and I want to first state that we thank this board and the city council for giving us an opportunity to meet with the neighbors and try to work something out. Unfortunately, we've not really been able to reach an agreement yet. The conditions which I sent Susan today was a result of our initial meeting with the neighborhood. I feel like we're making sufficient and good progress in trying to reach an accord. I think we can do that within the next 30 days. These conditions have been submitted to them for their response. We've had preliminary responses from some of the residents. We had a meeting last week where we had over 20 representatives or neighbors of the neighborhood in our offices. So we feel like we've made good progress. We came here tonight not having an agreement worked out with the neighborhood and prepared. We have our architects and engineers here. We've had a traffic letter which I've yet to submit to Susan. We just got it today from Kimberly Horn relative to the perceived traffic improvements. As far as the applicant is concerned, we are agreeable to the conditions which have been suggested by staff. And with the neighborhood, we're suggesting an additional 7 conditions, which we gave to Susan, and I know it was late, and I had them here tonight prepared to give to you in case we did go forward with the hearing. Mr. Kaus and others of the neighborhood have asked that we continue this for one more 30-day period in order that we can see if we can't reach an agreement. And we're agreeable to that, if it's agreeable to you. I know you're just dying to hear your first zoning case, but I think
On July 3rd? We were looking for fireworks, but that was outside, that was in Keswick Park.
those are not the kind of fireworks
No,
you want, right?
we were thinking about Keswick Park.
Right. So I think that from on behalf of the applicant, we certainly want to try to bring this to you with the support of the neighborhood and a series of conditions that we think we can meet. We were prepared, as you can see. Mr. Dahlia and his team were here ready to present what we think is a very good, well thought out plan that is consistent with what's already in the neighborhood, and will be a benefit to the neighborhood. We think the traffic issues can adequately be handled with the conditions that are recommended by staff and the other conditions which they have suggested. So we think we're making progress. We would ask that you hold it another 30 days. I think Mr. Kaus is here to also express those sentiments. If that is not the case, then we are prepared to make a presentation to you this evening.
Okay, so if I understand, you were asking for us.
We're asking for a 30-day deferral, and it needs to be to a date certain. So your recommendation would need to be to your next scheduled in August. Likewise, unless we can get something worked out between now and city council time, it would need to be then deferred by council to August as well.
Okay, and I assume you're holding the rest of your 10 minutes to see what
For
happens.
rebuttal.
I thought so.
Okay, good, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I might add, due to some language items in our zoning ordinance, even with Mr. Dillard asking for deferral by the planning commission, and if you choose to either, not recommend it or recommend it to the date certain of 8/7, it still is required to go on the city council agenda because of the way our ordinance is worded.
No, Susan is correct on that.
Right, and what I read earlier that said we just recommend, right? So we might recommend.
Yours is just a recommendation. They still got to act.
We like to think it's an important recommendation.
But in the event that that were to happen, the date in August would be August 7th. The date in September would be September 4th.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So does anybody have any questions for Mr. Dillard before we, and then ask? Well, let's hold that then and just see if the public, let's open this up then to,
Once you open the public hearing, you're opening the public hearing. So I think that the first response would be to Mr. Dillard's
Right.
request.
Yeah, let me ask that the public hearing be restricted to my request for deferral.
okay. All right, well then, do we have any questions for Mr. Dillard, or do we have a motion?
How about a request?
Or a request?
In the next 30-day period,
Yes.
if that were granted, the additional detail that we're going to be looking for, certainly I will be looking for, is just more detail about sanitation and the landscaping buffer. According to the information we have in the packet here, that the landscape plan that was submitted is not a construction drawing, but has some reference to preservation of the lot's existing trees, with some plans to install some replacement trees to repopulate the landscape buffer yard. I'm presuming that that's going to be an issue that's going to be brought up by the public, so we want to be as well prepared to speak to that. And you may already have all that detail.
Yeah. Let me just tell you though, we're not going to go do a grading plan or whatever. We can't. That's unrealistic until we know what our zoning is. We can describe the buffer. We can describe the kind of material that's in the buffer.
Right.
We can talk about the height and on what centers it's planted and the type of material that's actually planted. But beyond that, you know, a landscape plan will still have to be done, but that's part of the land disturbance process.
Right.
The other thing that's been a real issue has been surface water runoff, okay? We've talked about detention, we've talked about the way in which, and how and in which manner your ordinance requires that the runoff be reduced from what would be off-site, downstream runoff in an undeveloped state. Okay, so, and there's a percent above that, I can't remember exactly what it is. So we will actually improve the downstream issues, and we've got a couple of residences there on Matthews that we're concerned about. So we want to address that, and we will be responsible for that. We're looking at underground detention, even though it's very expensive. We are going to consider that as an alternative. But that, the lightings, the line of sights from the adjacent property owners, garbage pickup and that kind of thing have all been discussed, and we have suggested in our conditions, if we can't get individual pickup, and we're going to locate those compactors as far away from existing residences as possible. So I think we've got all the issues on the table, but as far as the actual plans that'll come to you, the final engineering drawings will not be here. It'll be a conceptual plan with a site plan, square footage minimums and all that kind of stuff if necessary, locations of where these issues will be, where the detention facilities will be, what the depth of the buffer will be, what we'll plan in it, what kind of height we will require, and on what center.
Conceptual design detail is really.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Narrative along these lines as well.
Okay, Commissioner Funny, have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Dillard. Quick question as relates to the traffic study. You mentioned that you did receive something today from Kimley Horn.
I will file that tomorrow.
And they are providing a comprehensive traffic engineering study for that location?
They are giving an opinion.
Okay.
Because this is such a small development. And we're agreeing to the width that's suggested in the conditions with the right end and then a left turn lane in. What the Kimley Horn study says is that somewhere less than 100 trips per day are going to be generated in and out.
Okay.
And that it's not going to change the level of service on N Druid Hills Rd. In their opinion, it's really not needed. The additional right-of-way is not needed, but we have agreed to provide that right-of-way.
What I would like to make certain that they are reviewing is as you add a decel lane, you're actually moving away from the line of sight, which currently there is a line of sight issue there. So I would make certain that they address the safety issues.
Oh, no, that's absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Also, the condition as it's listed, and I know we're not discussing because this is being deferred, but it addresses potentially two needs, the left turn lane as well as the North Druid Hill Road right turn lane into the development. I just want to make sure that the study doesn't only just address those. They need to look at the safety as it relates to crashes.
We're agreeing to the condition.
Okay. All right, so staff.
The traffic report
Okay.
would just substantiate that the condition's going to be more than you need to make this a safe egress and egress situation.
Okay, so we may suggest some wording changes with regards to that condition so that the traffic engineering study looks at it comprehensively, not limited to these two items.
That's right. This is just an opinion.
Okay.
This is what I would call a windshield deal, because it's kind of hard to spend the kind of money on a full traffic study when you don't know what your zone is going to be.
I understand.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
That's great.
Okay, anybody else, anything? Commissioner Hunter?
What materially is going to change in 30 days? I mean, what do you expect to be different in 30 days from where you are now?
An agreement with the neighborhood.
Well, I'm not sure what that means exactly. I mean,
I'll
is
tell
it-
you exactly what it means. We've got adjacent property owners that we've met with, over 20 of them.
Uh-huh.
We anticipate to have as many as 3 in agreement with Villa de Vista. We've got two property owners on Matthews that are very much concerned. We'll have individual agreements with them and probably with their homeowners association, and there might be a third.
Anybody else? Well, then do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, just before you make the motion, just for the record, I want to let you know that I do have comment cards, and I know we're not opening up the floor if you defer it, but I do have these, and they will go in the file if you defer it.
All right. And we do have the old file also, what we received in the emails. And
Yes, yes.
Those will all be part
They'll
of
all be part of the file.
all part of the file, so that everybody. So do we have a motion?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we defer the rezoning ordinance for the property at RZ 13-01, 1475 North Druid Hills Road until the next Planning Commission meeting on
August 7th.
August 7th.
7th at 7 o'clock.
Second.
So do we have any discussion on this motion?
Well, I would like to express, well, I'm not speaking for the board, but I would like to express the appreciation of Mr. Dillard working with the community, because what we're looking to do in Brookhaven is to make certain that the community is pleased with what's happening within our city. So I appreciate that, and realizing that everybody's not going to agree all the time, but I think your intention of looking to work with this neighborhood, we do appreciate that, because we're looking out for the best interests of our communities.
Yeah, and I'll like to comment also. I am generally disinclined to approve or agree with deferrals, because I think it's very difficult for the community to keep up the energy to move that. But I think in this case, I'm very happy to hear that the progress is made, and I certainly would not want to stand in the way of, for 30 days, an opportunity to get the community and this developer together. So I say in general, I think deferrals work against the community. I think in this case, it sounds like really progress has been made, and I'm hoping that we are reading that correctly. So I'm saying some head nodding back there, and I'm sure not all head nodding, but that's the way of it. So we have a.
Can I make a comment as
We have
well?
another. Okay, wait, sure.
I'd like to segue on what Stan just said, and I appreciate you are all working together. I think that's very important. One of the great things we have going as part of our comprehensive plan recommendations, as part of, I think, the spirit of the city of Brookhaven, is to build a strong city. And to do that, we have to build strong communities, and we have to build strong neighborhoods. And the way we build strong neighborhoods is through connectivity. It's so that you have those incidental interactions with your neighbors, so you know your neighbors, and so that also we can get out of our cars and we have good places to walk, whether it's walking our dogs, strollers, our kids, or just walking to the grocery store. And so I think something's very important. I hope that you build trust with each other through these conversations, and I hope that you also build strong connections, pedestrian connections at least, through the neighborhoods, so that you can all be connected. And I think that actually enhances everybody's safety. And I can go into a lot more detail about it on my personal experience, my personal streets and so on. But I hope that will continue to be part of the conversation, and I hope these discussions will build the confidence and the trust that everybody feels good about that approach.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to add one quick comment. Along the lines of what Mr. Funny said, and what you said, I am also not generally for, putting off business that needs to be decided, because we're going to have a pretty busy agenda for the rest of the year. But in this case, from what I've seen here, that the staff had recommended 15 conditions that are, substantial conditions, and the applicant's counsel proactively put on an additional half dozen or so. So I think that from what I heard here today, the progress that was represented to us previously, session in June, I've seen evidence of progress. In fact, continuing initiative to do that outreach to the community and to hear, not only to hear the concerns, but to actively attempt to actively negotiate, mutually agreeable resolutions and solutions. So that's the kind of initiative I like to see on the part of the applicant, and it's I think, in my view, a model for the way these kinds of things ought to be done moving forward. So I wanted to commend you for that. Thank
Any
you.
other discussion? No? So we have a motion and a second to defer this to recommend that recommend to the city council
Second.
deferral until August the
7th.
7th at 7 p.m. All in favor of that, of recommending that deferral, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you so much, and thank you to the community. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you being here, and we want to give everybody a chance. Thank you. All right.